Standing Committee on Licensing and Occupation. This is meeting number 1. Because of the holiday, we are not meeting at our normal time, but we are meeting at 2 o'clock. I want to make a couple of announcements before we get into our agenda. First of all, I want to thank the members of the committee for coming on such a timely manner. We want to make that a normal practice. There's one thing I value, and that's your time. So hopefully we will be in here, we'll conduct our business, and we'll get out of here so you can do what you need to do with still having plenty of time to talk about these important bills. The 24-hour rule will be in effect this session. For those of you who are new or are watching or not familiar with that, there's 24 hours are required to submit a committee sub. That's the minimum. We ask that you do it as soon as you have it. Please submit your committee subs early so we can get them posted up online so the members can look at them over the weekend. Since we meet right after the weekend, I like to have everyone have all their information before they go home on Friday or even have it on Thursday so they have plenty of time to go over it. So again, please get your committee subs in within 24 hours. I want to introduce my intern for the session, John Cordell from Northern Kentucky University. He's sitting up here to my left, and he will be with us this session, and it's great to have him. And if you have anything you need, feel free to ask John. He's here to assist us. We will be going first with Senate Bill 28 with Senator Stephen Meredith, an act relating to the practice of, is it podometry? Am I saying that right? Podiatry. Thank
Close.
you. Thank you. Introduce yourself and your guests for the record and proceed with your testimony. This is something like all our legislation that we've heard during the interim. And I'm sorry, staff just informed me that we have forgotten to call the roll. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Adams. Senator Douglas.
Present.
Senator Harper Angel. Senator Higdon. Here. Senator Howell.
Here.
Senator Mays Bledsoe. Senator McDaniel.
Here.
Senator Nemus.
Present.
Senator Thayer. Here. Senator Thomas. Here. Chairman Schickel.
Present. We do have a quorum. Let the record reflect and are duly constituted to conduct business. Again, Senator Meredith, introduce yourself for the record and your guests and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am Steve Meredith, State Senator from the 5th District.
And I'm Dr. Tom Childress, member of the State Board of Podiatry.
Thank you for that introduction. I have been informed there is a committee sub, so at this time I'll entertain a motion to accept the committee sub.
Motion. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor use the voting sign of aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, nay. Let the record reflect the committee sub has been adopted. Proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm very appreciative to have the opportunity to always present before this committee, and I'm very respectful and appreciative of your time as well. So to that end, I'd entertain a motion on the bill. Okay, maybe not.
Comedian's out of work, and we have you. Go ahead.
You folks were kind to hear this bill during the interim. No change had been made to it other than the committee sub you saw today, and that had to deal with some gender language that had to be amended for it. But very simply, as I noted during the interim, kind of a unique bill that when most people come to us, they ask for less restrictions on their licensure or on their privilege, and this is just the opposite. They're asking for more. And it was a learning education for me, even though I was in healthcare for 40 years. You know, usually when you complete medical school, the next step is to complete a residency, and that's when you get your full unrestricted license. And Dr. Childress shared with me that that's not the way it is in Kentucky with podiatry, that you graduate from medical school and you get a fully unrestricted license at that point. So they're asking us to amend this and make it much more in line with what other states are doing. President Kentucky and Alaska are the only ones that allow for a full license and completion of medical school, which is kind of unique in itself. but that's the biggest part of this bill. One thing I really like about this bill, it creates a new career ladder for young people with a podiatric assistant, which we've never had before. And this provides some structure for a new position that, again, gives young people a career path. But with that, I'll allow Dr. Childers to explain why this is important to his profession.
Welcome, Doctor. Proceed with your testimony.
Thank you. Like Mr. Meredith stated, the first part is a quality of care issue in that someone is allowed to graduate from medical school and get a full license without any postgraduate training. So that's the first thing that we would like to change to make it more up to the standard of care across the nation. And secondly, in the bill, we're trying to create a limited license for residents, because there are 2 residency programs in the state of Kentucky, and currently the residents also have a full license, so we would like to limit their licenses as well. And then along the point that Mr. Meredith made about the new career path for podiatry assistants, currently the way they have to do it is they have to get a full certification. This full certification takes upwards of 6 months and costs several $1,000s, and puts a undue burden on physicians who are in medically underserved areas. And so we would like to create a limited certification that's less expensive and can create a career path for a medical assistant.
Thank you. Senator Thayer, I believe you have a question or comment.
I do, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I've never seen a line like on page 3, line 8, is of good moral character and temperate habits. Who gets to judge that? I mean, do they have to swear an oath that they've never committed one of the 7 deadly sins, or what's the criteria here? Because depending on who the judge is,
Well,
you might have a problem getting people to pass those criteria.
I think it might be that you've never had a duel.
That's a little more specific.
I understand.
This is pretty wide open.
Well, we do run a federal background check, so if anything pops up on that gets questioned for their licensing. But the way that's written, it does sound somewhat subjective.
It is very subjective. What constitutes temperate habits? I'm probably out for being a podiatrist.
Right.
Other than that, I think this is a good bill to get off on the right foot for this session, Mr. Chairman.
Senator McDaniel, did you have your hand up?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So this creates a 2-year residency for podiatry, correct?
The residency is already in place.
So, yeah.
Just Kentucky is specific that when you get your license, it's fully unrestricted. But most folks who graduate from podiatry school do their residency. Because again, when you go to medical school, it teaches you how to be a doctor. Doing a residency actually gives you the tools to become the doctor.
So
There
you would graduate from medical school, and right now you have to have a 2-year residency already?
Correct. There are already 2 residency programs in Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
But there are people who currently apply for a licensure who've not had any postgraduate training.
So forgive me. Is residency the same thing as postgraduate training?
Yes.
So if you have to have residency as part of the program, what are we doing here other than requiring people to get a new license? Maybe you could kind of walk me through the timeline, right? Like, so you start podiatry school. It takes 3 years to finish. What is it now versus what you're changing exactly?
So 4 years of undergraduate training, 4 years of podiatry medical school, which is now followed by a 3-year residency program.
Okay.
40 years ago, that was not the standard. 40 years ago, there were no residencies. There were no postgraduate training. So it was considered okay to start practicing. As things have evolved now, the standard of care is to do a residency.
So I guess where I'm not following is, if you already have to have 3 years of residency, Does this basically say when you get to the end of that 4 years of medical school, instead of having a full license as a podiatrist, you have a limited license until you complete your residency? Is that what we're saying here?
Yes.
So the only difference is right now, when you come out of medical school, you have a full license.
In Kentucky, you can apply and get a full license. Yes.
But does Kentucky let you skip the 3 years of residency?
Yes.
As I noted, we're only one of two states that allow this. Alaska is the other, and why we haven't updated this point is beyond me.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Vice Chair Nemus.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, but Senator Thayer pushed a button quicker than I did because I had the exact same question and almost the exact same wording I would have said, so thank you.
You're welcome. Senator Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And my question is just really one of pronunciation. I understand podiatry and how you pronounce it. Thank you, Senator Heddick. My question is one of pronunciation. On paragraphs 2 and 3 on page 26, do you pronounce that podiatric? Podiatric? I mean, what is the correct pronunciation of that? Because I've never seen that word before.
Well, it's kind of a synonym. Podiatry and podiatric medicine mean basically the same thing.
Okay, I got that, but it's pronounced podiatric.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Kind of like tomato.
The other
tomato.
physician on the committee concurs with your answer. Senator McDaniel has a follow-up question.
So I want to get into one more thing here real quick, because this isn't the only thing we're doing with this bill. The other thing we're doing is you've added a section where the Board of Podiatry can now suspend a license or revoke a license, not just of a resident, but also of an existing podiatrist, and we've added a new section for willful violation of any administrative regulation of the board. Right? What if the board administratively regulated that to go into a podiatrist's office you had to wear a mask? We've seen that recently.
Interesting question. Well, there are 5 members on the board, and we would have to take that under consideration, and that would be a vote amongst the 5 of us on whether to enforce that or not. That's never come up before.
I think we might have a little bit of sanding around the edges to do on it, Senator, but I'll make the motion.
We have a motion. Is there a second? We have let the record reflect we have a motion and a second. Further discussion is in order. Is there any further discussion? I would just say that the point that Senator McDaniel brings up in this day and age, I think could be relevant. So we may want to take a look at that. I don't know. Don't know if it's appropriate or not. Like I said, the bill was heard during the interim. It's heard now, and that's the way we like to do all our bills, plenty of discussion. If there's no further discussion, I'll ask the secretary to call the roll.
Senator Adams. Senator Douglas.
I would explain my vote.
Vote and explain.
Mr. Chairman, as I said before, I vote aye. I do have 3 little things I want to address. First of all, people graduate from a school of podiatry. They don't graduate from medical school. It may be a school in the medical space, but I want to make sure that our public understands that we know the difference between medical school and a school of podiatry. I want to thank Senator Meredith for bringing this bill. It's a really great start. It's something that I think that we really needed. And I also want to address the concerns that Senator McDaniel has expressed, and I think that's a very a reasonable concern, and I'm hoping that I will have something that will relieve that very soon, Senator McDaniel. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
Senator Harper Angel. Senator Higdon. Aye. Senator Howell.
Aye.
Senator Mays Bledsoe. Senator McDaniel.
Aye.
Senator Nemus,
Aye.
Senator Thayer, Senator Thomas, Chairman Schickel.
Aye. Let the record reflect there are 9 yeas, no nays, and no passes. Senate Bill 28, as amended by the Senate Committee Substitute, is passed with favorable expression that the same should pass. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, members of the committee.
The next item on the agenda is Senate Bill 62, an act relating to alcoholic beverages and declaring emergency. Senator Jay Williams. Welcome, Senator Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Introduce yourself and your guests for the record. I want to point out to the committee that, like all our bills, this has also been heard during the interim.
Yes, I'm Senator Jay Williams, and this is Captain Embry from the Kentucky River Tours. We have heard this bill in the interim. It's probably one of the simplest bills you could have. It simply changes 100 required for a Coast Guard approved riverboat to 40. With the opening of the Kentucky River, or reopening of the Kentucky River locks, we have much smaller vessels than we used to have traversing the Kentucky River, and this will give those vessels the designated as a Coast Guard regulated riverboat at 40 passengers, and they will then, like other riverboats, be able to sell alcohol on board the river and do tours of our bourbon industry up and down the Kentucky River. If there's any questions, we're open to those questions, but this is a great business for Kentucky and a great opportunity for them.
Motion on the bill.
There's a motion and a second. Let the record reflect we have a motion and a second on the bill. Further discussion. Tell me a little bit about the locks reopening on the Kentucky River. That's interesting.
Insofar as the locks, they're open seasonably. Our issue is they're just not big enough to let a larger vessel in. 49 passengers is currently the maximum size of a vessel allowed to go through the locks. That's the primary reason. It would have been March 1st, 1996 that Coast Guard regulations changed, making vessels a bit larger, and clearly the lock system predates March 1st, 1996.
So how far up? So are the locks are functioning on the Kentucky River?
Locks 1 through 4 are functioning.
And when you say that, how far up is 4?
That's Frankfort, Kentucky. So Ohio River to Frankfort.
So you could bring one of your tour boats up here into town.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to address that question too.
Sure.
As far
go
as the
ahead.
locks, a lot of
Interesting
people,
topic.
yes, and a lot of people do not realize that Kentucky has more miles of navigable waterway than any state but Alaska. And that is why from the 1800s to the 1900s, we were in fact sort of what I'll say the California of America, the economic engine of America, because the rest of the world were actually building canals. Roads in that period were pretty bad. You couldn't get much over them. They were building canals, but we had a built-in river system that connected us to the rest of the world. That's why when I used to go and do business in Europe, they all remember Kentucky. Kentucky was America's manufacturing and export hub as a state, 1800 to 19, from when we were a breakaway colony until we produced more manufacturing output than all the rest of the world. We were the state that had more than anybody else because of our rivers.
I would think with our bourbon industry and natural beauty that are you doing a lot of tours coming up this far up the river?
We are. And the particular vessel that I'm talking about is the Bourbon Belle, and she's been operating in Frankfurt for the last year, but with no alcohol on board.
We have Senator McDaniel. Did you have your hand up?
I did. I think you answered, but if I could just ask one question.
Yeah,
Mr.
go
Chairman.
ahead. Interesting topic, and I think we have one after you.
So it sounds like from what you're saying, the essence is under our regulations to run the Kentucky River, because of the restrictions on the locks, you have to run dry. You can't serve alcohol on a vessel right now because of the lock restrictions.
No, it's not it's the size of
But the locks
vessels.
can't take more than a 49-person vessel,
Basically, that's the answer.
which then becomes a limiting factor, and we
Right.
can't do bourbon tourism or whatever up and down the river.
Right.
Senator Adams, did you have your hand up? She was just waving to us. Anyone else? Very well. Madam Secretary, call the roll.
Senator Adams. Senator Douglas.
Aye.
Senator Harper Angel. Senator Higdon. Senator Howe.
Aye.
Senator Mays Bledsoe. Senator McDaniel.
Aye.
Senator Nemus.
Aye.
Senator Thayer.
Vote and explain.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I vote aye. Thanks for bringing this bill today. This committee is all about removing artificial barriers to free enterprise. I just have to comment. People ask me, since I'm not coming back next year, if there's anything I'm going to miss about this place. And I just found one thing that I'm going to miss. It's being on this committee where we go from discussing a bill where someone must be of good moral character and temperate habits to passing a bill so we can all drink bourbon on a river cruise. Sign me up. I vote aye.
Senator Thomas. Chairman Schickel.
I vote aye. Senate Bill 62 has 9 yeas, no nays, no passes, and is passed with favorable expression. Congratulations. Does anyone have anything else to bring before this committee before we adjourn? Without objection, we